The sons of God have returned. Error, error, error. The wicked want the world to continue. The righteous see the end coming. Change is coming, we can all feel it. It's the end of a cycle. The age of Aquarius 3D timeline breakdown. End times return of God. Whatever you call it. Our entire generation is fixated on an event that seems to be outside of our imagination. In these perilous times, who is the God we should call out to?
There's many inhabited planets in the universe. And the other thing he said that stood out from what I've read is that the Bible is not to be taken literally.
There are many different species of creatures in the universe. The four main type in our area are the humanoids, praying, mantis, reptilian, and gray aliens.
These four species are in a galactic war.
There are beings that seem to war against each other. There have been eyewitness sightings of craft shooting each other and chasing each other. And some of these
Reptilians are stationed all over the galaxy, but they have a stronghold near Alpha Centauri. This is the truth. There is so much to learn, but we will start with the Anunnaki and the Sumerians.
The Sumerian civilization, which emerged more than 6,000 years ago from the Stone Age, is credited with over 100 of the earliest advancements for a modern society. These include agriculture, science, medicine, mathematics, kingship, laws, courts, judges, schools, and essentially all aspects of society that were integral to its development. But how did a civilization like this become so advanced out of nowhere? Is it possible that they were helped by another more advanced extraterrestrial civilization?
According to the ancient Sumerian text. So if you look at Genesis, which is the generations of Isis, and the reason why is because Isis took an egg out of one of our cousins that was here, and she actually took genetic material out, inserted it into her womb, and took it to full term for 10 months, and gave birth to the Adamu, according to the ancient text. And the Adamu means first man. It wasn't the first person.
Deeper into Enki's role, especially concerning humanity's origins and development. In the heart of Sumerian mythology, we find a unique group of deities, the Anunnaki, whose name can be loosely translated as those of royal blood or offspring of Anu, sky. The Anunnaki hold a critical place in the Sumerian pantheon, often associated with the realms of the heavens, earth, and the underworld. According to the Sumerian cosmogony, the Anunnaki initially came to Earth searching for gold. Their home planet, Nibiru, or the planet of crossing, as per the interpretation of the ancient texts, had a deteriorating atmosphere. Gold particles, known for their reflective properties, were sought to be dispersed in Nibiru's atmosphere to restore and protect it. The Anunnaki, initially conducting the mining themselves, found the work tedious and challenging. Their leader, Anu, who resided on Nibiru, received reports of the unrest among the Anunnaki on Earth and their unwillingness to continue the strenuous labor. In the tablets of the lost book of Enki, the Master of Wisdom, as Enki was often titled, proposed a solution, the creation of a new being. His plan was to genetically modify an existing creature on Earth, one that was already quite similar to the Anunnaki. This creature was what we now recognize as Homo erectus. Enki believed that by manipulating the genetic structure of this being, they could create a creature capable of performing the labor the Anunnaki found so burdensome. This solution would not only resolve the gold mining issue, but also potentially curb the increasing descent among the Anunnaki on Earth. Thus, the idea of creating primitive workers using genetic manipulation was conceived, propelling Enki into the heart of one of the most intriguing and controversial narratives of human origins. His wisdom, knowledge of biology, and genetic manipulation, presented in these ancient tales, further define Enki's role as a master shaper of life. Delving further into the ancient Sumerian narratives, we arrive at the pivotal moment of the genesis of mankind, the creation of the Lulu Amalu, or primitive worker. The ancient texts, including the Lost Book of Enki, detail a compelling and intricate process behind this creation. In these Sumerian accounts, the term Lulu Amelu translates roughly to mixed worker. This name itself implies a level of genetic amalgamation, suggestive of the extraordinary procedures the Anunnaki are said to have employed.
So there was a war in heaven between the Anunnakis and the reptilians.
When the human beings began to increase their numbers on the earth, and daughters were born to them, the sons of God looked and saw that the daughters of humans were beautiful, and they married as many of them as they chose. Verse 4. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward were the sons of God. Genesis chapter 6b. Genesis 6 and 1.
And this is the book of Enoch, first book, chapter 18, verse 8. And now the giants who are produced from the spirits and flesh will be called evil spirits on the earth, and their dwelling will be on the earth. Evil spirits have produced from their bodies, because they are born from men with their beginning and primal origin is from the holy watchers. So they are born from men, but their primal origin is from the holy watchers. This is talking about the genetic modifications that was going on earth before the flood.
What we are dealing with is a vicious cycle. Something must be done.
And so, in order to purify the world, the Earth consciousness called forth great catastrophes to befall the planet Earth.
Human beings could no longer survive there, but neither could the inhabitants of hell.
So God let the Nephilim, the giants, the hybrid race of human beings, get destroyed by the flood because of their evil.
So, the Anunnaki genetically modified a race of human beings that went extinct during the last floods. But it doesn't stop there. There are stories about an extraterrestrial presence genetically modifying humans all over the world. Let's go to the Dogon to learn more.
The Dogon tribe knew about Sirius B, and they knew about this in ancient times. They knew about this long before we even had the capability of creating observatories. They had a verbal handed down history for thousands of years that the Nomo came from a planet that orbited Sirius B, which is a star that ran out of fuel. They came to Earth, and they began, these are Nomo or Anunnaki people. They came to Earth and they taught them the orbital periods of their trinary star system, that's Sirius. They taught them all the information about the planets in our solar system, the shapes, the sizes, the colors. And so they had all this advanced wisdom they claimed they got from the Nomo. And they still have that same exact history to this current day.
The Dogon had advanced information on the star Sirius.
Most people perceive it as one single star. However, in reality, Sirius is a binary stellar system consisting of two space objects, Sirius A and Sirius B. Both stars orbit around their common gravity center at a distance of approximately 20 astronomical units. Just to compare, this is only 1 astronomical unit more than the distance from Uranus to the Sun. Their orbital period around the gravity center is 50 years. Sirius A is the main component. It is a visible star of spectral type A1, which has long been perceived as the only star in the system. It is about 2 sun masses, with the radius exceeding that of the Sun by 71%. Due to its close proximity, Sirius A is one of the easiest objects for amateur astronomers. The star is 8.6 light-years away from our system, and its brightness is 25 times as intense as that of the Sun. In addition to its superiority over our main star in terms of its dimensions and mass, this celestial object also beats it in the temperature level, which may reach 9,940 kelvins on its surface, as opposed to only 5,778 kelvins on the Sun.
Sirius B is a white dwarf star. It's a dead star that's incredibly dense. 1 teaspoon would weigh over 1 ton.
The NASA discovery seems to confirm that the ancient tribes people have somehow acquired detailed information about a star that is invisible to them.
So how did they come to this knowledge, which we observe to be true in large part? The really strange thing about the Dogon tradition is that it dates back to before the era of astronomical instruments. The knowledge existed for many centuries before Sirius B was even known.
During his time with the Dogon, Griel observes them conducting strange rituals to mark the passage of the invisible star. Even though they cannot see it, they seem to be able to predict its movement.
Captivated by their secrecy and profound knowledge of the cosmos and the universe, he spent some time among them to gain their trust. When they decided to reveal their secret knowledge to him, an elder named Ogotameli communicated with the Frenchman for 32 days. During this period, he showed maps of the starry heavens engraved on stones. He spoke very accurately of the structure of the solar system, the existence of the satellites of Jupiter, the rings of Saturn, and others. Many of the things shared with Gerold by the elder have been subsequently revealed by scientists. Dieterlein pointed out that a number of astronomical data held by Aborigines in past centuries were unknown to Western scientists until the 20th century, referring to ancient drawings of the constellation Sirius created by the ancestors of the Dogon. But even if we accept the thesis that the astronomical knowledge of the Dogon has ancient origins, how was it acquired?
The teachers have come to Earth sometime in the past to teach them things that they would otherwise not know.
According to the Dogon, the teachers live on a third star near Sirius B. This third star has yet to be discovered. But gravitational studies of the star system suggest that it might exist.
We can actually scientifically examine the idea that there's this third star in the Sirius system. And a paper was published in 1995 that showed that perhaps there is a third companion star, and it has an orbit of about 6 years.
The knowledge of Sirius was given to their ancestors by the extraterrestrial amphibians Homo, who came from the region of the star Po-Tolo.
This is how the star system of Sirius is set up. It's 2 big stars, A and B, and they're locked in a orbit with each other, just like our sun is locked in an orbit with the entire system, okay? These two take 50 years to go around each other. At the same time, that hidden Sirius C is a gigantic planet that circles around the smaller of the 2 stars, Sirius B. It takes 6 years for Sirius C to go all the way around Sirius B one time, okay? This planet is called Nibiru, heaven, the realm of the gods. This is the homeland of the Nommo, the planet of the gray Anunnakis.
To the star Sirius, for example, although it is only 21 times brighter than our sun, and there are stars of much greater power than it, from Earth, it is perceived as the brightest of all the stars in the sky because of its proximity, which is only 8.5 light years from us. In close proximity to Sirius is the collapsed star Sirius B. In a letter dated August 10, 1844, the German astronomer Friedrich Wilhelm Bessel concluded from changes in Sirius's proper motion that it had an invisible companion. Almost 20 years later, on 31st January 1862, the American astronomer and telescope maker Alvin Graham Clark first observed the faint satellite we now call Sirius B, the Dogon tribe. They described the universe as infinite but measurable, and full of many Yalo Ulo, or star systems, including the one containing our Sun. Their knowledge of the universe also includes claims that most of it is part of the outer star system, while closer to Earth lies the inner star system. The stars included in the inner system have an effect on life on Earth and play an important role in human history, including not only Sirius, but also Orion, Pleiades, and others.
From this planet come our gods, species of aliens that created or genetically modified us in the past, giving birth to the Homo sapien. Or should I say Nomo sapien?
Associates the origin of life with the star Sirius B, which they call the Po-Tolo, or seed star. According to them, creation started from there to us. Naturally, many of you will find this hard to believe, but we must pay particular attention to one fact. The Dogon knew of Sirius B long before its scientific discovery, including its high density and small size, which they explain by the existence of Sagala, an extremely dense metal unknown on Earth. They also understand the complex elliptical orbit that Sirius and Sirius B form. This knowledge is even recorded in stone star charts dating back more than 5 centuries. Well, if you haven't been blown away by now, then you have yet to be, especially in just a minute when we get to the description of these visitors. Before that, though, we continue with something even more interesting. The Dogon claim that Sirius B has an orbital cycle of 50 years relative to Sirius. Well, guess what? It was only recently confirmed by astronomers that this cycle is 50 years and 15 days. They also believe that Sirius B rotates on its axis in a time equal to 1 solar year, a detail for which modern science still has no data. Furthermore, the Dogons speculate about the existence of a third body, called by them Ema-Iya, which could be a small star with a planet or a large planet with a satellite. Astronomers call this supposed body Sirius C. The interesting question is how people with such a standard of living could have obtained such knowledge without using any kind of measuring or magnifying equipment. Approximately 5,500 years ago, the Homo arrived from the constellation Sirius in a huge galactic transport vessel named by the Dogon Pelu-Tolo, or Star of the 10th Moon. Homo's ship was spiraling towards Earth. Around it flashed lightsabers, and the noise it made was unheard of among the tribe. When the vessel touched the ground, it made several bounces and only then came to a stop. After the dust cleared, there was a new star in the night sky. Presumably, this was the mothership of the visitors. Actually, now you'll say that's a common sight in science fiction movies, but we'll take you back to 1969, when we humans used the same strategy of having only the lunar module land on the moon and the landers stay in orbit. In the language of the Dogon, Homo means connected to water, and for whom the most important thing is to drink. On rock images created by the ancestors of the Dogon, the Homo are represented as creatures combining features of man and lizard, reminiscent of the amphibian demigod Oannes, as well as the Babylonian demon Oanni, who are depicted with fishtails. These similarities to mythological figures from other ancient civilizations that existed during the migration of the Dogon ancestors raise many questions. The descriptions of Homo bear a remarkable resemblance to the Akkadian amphibian Ii, the Sumerian god Enki, and the Egyptian goddess Isis, depicted as a siren in religious art. According to ancient lore, which we have already examined many times, it was from these creatures that human civilization began, presenting themselves as key figures in the mythology and cultural heritage of various peoples. Following this trail, we looked for similarities in other cultures, and were surprised. Yes, there are traces of these visitors in more ancient cultures, also pointed to as the cradle of civilization. In ancient Egypt, sages praised the star Sirius, which was associated with the goddess Isis. The temple at Dendera was erected in her honor, and so designed that on New Year's Day, The rays of Sirius would penetrate through a specially created opening directly into the interior of the sacred chapel. From here we again draw a parallel that takes us back to where we started, with the Dogon. The temple at Dendera and what goes on inside is very reminiscent of a ceremony performed by an ancient tribe called the Squeeze. It takes place once every 6 decades when Sirius is visible through a small opening in one of the cliffs near the settlement of Yugo-Dogoro. The ceremony lasts a full 5 years and is timed to a specific point in Sirius's orbit.
Around 36,000 years ago, there was a war going on in heaven. The Bible talks about the war in heaven. The devil and his dominions warred against God. This is the war. There's a war going on in space. It's been going on for billions of years.
There was once a great war that happened in heaven.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a tale about good versus evil. This was the great war in heaven.
There is a war. In space, reptilian versus everyone.
Legends, myths, and religions from around the world have spoken of gods and angels, not always in the spiritual sense, but actual flesh and blood beings interacting with mankind. Many of these ancient cultures had vast knowledge of mathematics and astronomy, attributing their knowledge as being handed down from the gods. Who were these godlike beings known to one of the oldest civilizations, the Sumerians, as the Anunnaki?
Hove, England, 2008. In the middle of the night, 20-year-old Charmaine de Rosario Sage is sleeping in bed when she awakens to a frightening sight. A reptilian humanoid staring down at her.
I woke up. A reptilian came into the room. We went to an underground cave. There was a group of reptilians there, and they stood around me in a circle. Each one of them put one hand on my body, and I slowly changed. And it was the most amazing, but also sort of bizarre situation to look down at your body and see it morph from your human form into a reptilian form. To see the skin shift from being smooth into scales. And to find that I had a tail.
Could Charmaine's incredible story be true? Was she really transformed into a reptilian-human hybrid? Charmaine claims she learned from her abductors that all humans today are byproducts of alien genetic manipulation. Some more than others.
At certain points in our history, different ET races have come to this planet, and they have not manipulated all of humanity, but certain groups.
The reason and agenda for alien intelligences to be on this planet manipulating humans and animals is because there are wars out there between different types of intelligences about territory. And that those territorial wars involve populations of created and manipulated life.
If reptilian...
Around 12,000 years ago, different alien species genetically modified human beings, leapfrogging their evolution overnight. We will see how this genetic modification is affecting us today. But first, where is God while all this is happening?